And we are live. And let's just hope that my internet doesn't absolutely shit the bed like it has been lately. And for the first time in 28 days, we have the non WrestleMania jobber in the house, Mr. Mario Mancini.
I just thought I'd throw that up there, How you been, Maurice?
I've been great, but like, there's really only one place to start, isn't there? Terrible news over the weekend.
Oh my God, my poor brother Scott Wilder. Oh my God. Oh, this poor guy. You know, Scott's a great promoter. He really is. And he's a hell of a guy. He's a nice guy. He's a guy you want to hang around with. He really is. And I was happy for him because he had a great pre-sale. It looks like he was going to be tremendously successful. And he brought Butch in from New Zealand, and you know, um, he did a private signing the night he got in, and he couldn't get out of bed the next day, and the ambulance came and rushed him to the hospital, and he just never recovered, and he passed away. It was just terrible. And Scott is on Zoom with his family, his family watching their husband, father, grandfather passing away in Los Angeles from New Zealand. I mean, just rough stuff, man. Just God bless Butch and Luke. Lost his brother of 50 years, and just a sad day, just a really really sad day.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put the link after this video of the GoFundMe in the description if people want to contribute to that. And
Yeah.
that brings me to my next point is like it seems strange to me that someone that put in so many years into the business and then they fall upon hard times like that and unexpected circumstances, and then the billion-dollar company are nowhere to be seen. But that seems to be a common thing in the business, yeah.
Well, it's hard. I mean, you know, uh, it's hard for me to criticize harshly because on the other hand, he was very free with his money. The WWE was very free with their money. If you had a drug problem or an alcohol problem, they pay for rehab. They send you to rehab, whether you were on the roster or not. Whether you were there last year or 20 years ago, they'd send you to rehab and pay for it. So I don't know. Are they yet to be generous? I have no idea. You'd have to ask Carlos that. Carlos owns the company, so you'd have to ask Carlos. Maybe after he trims his mustache.
It's just when I see a guy like that I like in the business, Chris Jericho, just lumping 5 grand in there, like it's a thing that he does all the time, and I kind of can't help but respect him for that. He never shies away from these things, really.
Well, you get a guy like Chris Jericho. I mean, a consummate professional in and out of the ring. What I preach to my students is, you don't only have to worry about inside the ring, but it's outside the ring at all, as well, and how you carry yourself. And actually, it's not only professional wrestling. Obviously, Chris Jericho is a great human being. So, that was very generous of him. And, pro wrestling's a tight knit community. Um, so I'm not. I'm surprised, but a guy like Chris Jericho and the class he has, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, everything could change. I think it happened. It was announced Monday, really, wasn't it? And I don't think there was a little tribute message for him on Raw, but I'm sure there will be one for him on SmackDown. I'm sure
Yeah,
of that
sure.
at the very least. So, what do you think of? You touched on it there, Vince McMahon's new look, Dick Dastardly.
Listen, and unfortunately, the Guardian of Chaos can't chime in. Um, I think what trumped me, because I put on Facebook, happy birthday, Uncle Carlos, I love you. What Vince's picture, but it's the people posting the pictures of the Adams family,
Oh, I see.
McMahon family is priceless. Uh, listen, in my New York Magazine interview, one of the last things I said was he's strange, brother, and they put it in quotes, and everything that has come out of my mouth they're not lies. So he is strange. He is. You know what? And I guarantee you, he looked in the mirror and said, "I look great. I look fantastic." If I have to say this, if it were me and Roma and Hercules Hernandez and Greg Valentine, Kurt Hennig, did I say Bret Hart? Bret Hart, Junkyard Dog, King Kong Bundy, Joey Morella, SD Jones. If we were all together in the dressing room like we used to be, cracking up, we would be killing him. And the minute he would show up in that dressing room between TV tapings, we keep our mouths shut. We'd be killing him. Listen, that's Vince from the rumors of a hyperbaric chamber he sleeps into, getting his blood filtered once a month. Rumors. That's Vince. Listen, I felt bad for him one time because I think like several years ago, or maybe even more than that, they asked him about why he wasn't on TV too much anymore, and he said, "Oh, I got too ugly to be on TV." You know what I mean? And that's horrible to think about yourself. Imagine being a billionaire and you look in the mirror and go, "Yeah, I'm ugly." You know what I mean? So it's like, not that money should make you better looking, but you know what? Listen, I embrace it. I have no choice. I am dieting right now to get down to try to take off like 10 or 15 pounds before I go to the 80s WrestleCon on May 6th. So Demolition doesn't tell me I swallowed a small child, So, I'm in June, I'm going to be 57 years old, so what are you going to do? Maurice, what are you going to do? Father time waits for no one, and I want to go to the gym and I want to do all this stuff. And you know what? My body, Jesus, getting up in the morning is a chore. When I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, like, oh, you know what I mean? When I was married, my ex-wife, every single morning of her life had to take the palm of her hand and rub out my lower back just so I can walk. And now all I do is live with a cat. So I don't, my cat can't do that for me. So I really have to try to loosen up and myself. But, if I was watching this interview right now, I'd say, well, you know what? You're the one that made the decision to be a pro wrestler. You know what I mean? And you're the one that stayed there. You're the one that stayed there and got the shit knocked out of you for all those years. So don't complain. And you know what? You're right. Is Big Daddy himself, and Big Daddy used to be a very hardcore power lifter. And so was I at the 242-pound class for the American Powerlifting Association. And, and Big Daddy, as an active wrestling manager, one of the top managers in it, if not the top manager in the independent circuit, and especially when the ECW was starting and everything, he got so much heat that, of course, at the end of the storyline, it was, he had to take the bump. He had to get the snot knocked out of him and take the bumps. Yeah. So even though he wasn't, quote unquote, a wrestler that would go work 12 minutes, going there and work 12, 15 minutes, he still had to take bumps. We talk all the time, and we tell each other how much we're hurting. You know what I mean? Sometimes he gets bedridden with his pain. You know what I mean? Actually, bedridden with his.
Oh, he's gone again. I think the Undertaker got him.
Oh, this is the casualties of my camera not working on my laptop, and I have to do this on my phone. Phone calls come in and I black out. So,
Yeah, I've
um,
seen this happen a few times on Hannibal. I said, "Oh, the
yeah,
Undertaker's got him again."
yeah. So, um, it's not easy as you get older, but you know what? You embrace it. You gotta embrace it. Thank God I take after my father. My father passed away 4 months shy of 90, and he didn't have a gray hair in his head. But as Dave Paradise, aka Big Steve Tracy, says, it's the highway split is getting thinner here. You know what I mean? So, um, what are you going to do if you go on YouTube and watch my matches from the 80s? I had a mop. I mean, a mop of a head of hair. What are you going to do? I'm not dyeing my hair. I'm not using Just for Men on my goatee. If I don't like the way my goatee looks, that it's gray, I'll shave the whole thing off. You know what I mean? I'm not going to use Just for Men. I'm not doing that. I'm not altering myself in any way. Either you like me or you don't. You know what I mean? So, well, especially when I'm referring to females. I mean, you either like the way I look or you don't. If you don't, just keep walking, you know, and find that guy that won't pay for dinner or let you get evicted or, puts his hands on you. And, you won't find a sucker like me. So, but yeah, Vince looks like El Chapo. So there's what that was his choice. What he I my chin dropped, and then I
I
started laughing.
think, I think, I think after everything, that everything that's went on, I think him in a way is trying to rebrand himself as well.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't want to say I told you so, but and I stuck to my guns, and I'm glad I did. Way back when he resigned as the CEO of the no no Vince isn't in the business anymore. No, no, you're out of your mind. The only way he's not going to be in that business is when he's dead, and still then I won't believe it. You know what I mean? It's his baby. You know what I mean? So and even with this acquisition, this merger, it's still his baby.
Yeah,
You know,
but the company that merged it from him, I can't remember the guy's name, but they have the UFC as well. But he's actually good friends with Vince, and he wants Vince to stay.
well,
So that's
well,
handy, isn't it?
oh yeah, and I heard the salaries and incentives, and yeah, it's over 4 million a year.
Yeah,
So God bless him. So you listen. He's the Pied Piper. He's Abner Doubleday. He's Abner Doubleday. Did he invent pro wrestling? No, he didn't invent pro wrestling. Pro wrestling was invented in the late 1800s in a carnival. Um, he didn't invent it, but he took it places where um, nobody else did, and for that, he reinvented the business, and he's responsible for all that, the explosion and everything, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. The only thing, like I say, which I had which I mentioned in my class on Monday night, which I tortured my students, and because I used to teach differently back in the late 80s, early 90s. I would actually
yeah.
torture people, and so they were doing stuff I didn't like, so I went back to the 80s, and I started training that way, and I started torturing them because I changed my style of teaching because it's 2023 and the entertainment is bigger than the wrestling. In my day, the wrestling was bigger than the entertainment. So, um,
That brings me on to something I wanted to talk to you about. Remember, I talked to you during the week about that Bret Hart said that the business is phony and he'd hate to be in it in this current incarnation. That's basically what he was talking about as well. He
well,
said fights. He said fights were fights back in his day.
yeah. I mean, back in the day, we cared about the mechanics in the ring. we took wrestling very seriously. Wrestling very seriously. The way we worked in the ring and the way we, you know, designed moves and executed everything, we took very seriously. We were very hard on ourselves if we came back and said, Jesus, that was the shits. That was terrible. That it was a sleepless night. Um, I said this once before, and it's not aired and it's not produced. It's in pre-production, but I'll say it on Cheap Heat. When it comes to Bret Hart and anything that comes out of his mouth is like coming out of a burning bush. Bret Hart is entitled to every opinion he says in this business. Bret Hart was a pro wrestler when he was in his mother's stomach. He was born into the business. He was born into a family in the business, a very famous family. It is practically one of the royal families of professional wrestling,
Yep.
along with the Samoan dynasty, right? Right. And you have the Hart family. Okay. So, as far as I'm concerned, Bret is the authority on the business. He's the authority. Whatever comes out of his mouth is right. And what kills me is people criticize Bret. And it's really funny because if if these people were alive today, if Ted Williams had a comment about Aaron Judge or Joe DiMaggio had a comment about a particular baseball player, people would really listen to that because my God, well, that's the opinion of Ted Williams or Joe DiMaggio, two of the greatest hitters in the history of baseball. Well, isn't Bret Hart one of the greatest wrestlers that ever entered the ring? Yeah, he is. So how come you don't listen to him? Well, because Bret, believes his own hype, and his house looks like a museum, of his career. Yeah, I'm sorry, the guy's not proud. The guy's not proud. Number one, proud of his career. Number two, misses it like hell. You know what I mean? Like all the rest of us in our 50s, late 50s, or the guys in their early 60s, their heart and their head want to do it. They want to do it, but their
Yeah.
body says you can't. You can't. And in Bret's case, a long time ago, his insurance company said he can't. So
Yeah.
uh,
That injury, that bad.
yeah,
He got a very bad injury from Bill Goldberg from a kick to the head, and
right,
that kind of finished him.
right. So you know,
Oh, he's gone again. The Undertaker's got him.
yeah, Bret Hart is the Joe DiMaggio. He is the Babe Ruth. Well, as far as Babe Ruth, people call Hogan that because of where he took the business, but Bret Hart is the Joe DiMaggio. He is the Ted Williams. He's the Ty Cobb. You know what I mean? He's it. I wrestled Bret Hart in a house show, and I came back from that match with my elbows on my knees, looking at the floor, and I saw 2 feet in front of me, and I looked up, and it was Strongbow. And he said, "What's wrong?" And I go, "I suck. I don't know how to work. I don't know how to wrestle." He goes, "What are you, crazy?" He goes, "You're a very good wrestler, Mancini." I go, "No, I'm not. I suck." I did 12 minutes with Bret Hart. This is the truth on my kids. All he said was, I locked up with him. He said, hammerlock. So I got him in a hammerlock, and he said, don't let it go. And I held on to that hammerlock, and he tossed me all over that ring. and I still ended up with the hammerlock on him. I mean, all over that ring. I didn't even know where I was. I'm like, how the hell is this guy doing this? How is he doing it? It was a different level. It was a level that I could have only dreamed to achieve. I mean, to work with him in the ring was unbelievable. His skill was like off the charts. So, Brett has
Bill is here, our friend. Remember from a couple of shows ago,
yeah,
Chris
Bill,
Michael.
yeah, I
He's
do.
he's looking pretty young in that photo there. I believe
Yeah.
in my heart of hearts, Magnum TA did not have that terrible accident. He would have been Hulk Hogan. What do you think about that? Thanks,
I,
Chris.
I I didn't know Magnum TA. I don't know if he could have got that popularity. I'm not sure, but um, I believe in my heart that if they stuck with superstar Billy Graham, he could have.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen you and Hannibal talk about that because Hannibal's a massive superstar Billy Graham fan as well.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Um, what about like the thing that people seem to say about Brett is, and they don't know him. This is just stuff that people read. Like I would read, and it'd say, "Oh, Bret Hart's a grumpy old man" or something like that. Did you ever see him being like that, or was he just always just strictly professional?
He was always strictly professional. I mean, Brett was a quiet guy. Um, I've never seen him mouth off in the dressing room or anything like that. Listen, this Bret Hart. Let me put it to you this way: Bret Hart was like Don Mattingly. Okay, so Don Mattingly was the first baseman for the New York Yankees back in the '80s, early '90s. When I got out of wrestling in '92, I'd gone to work as a manager for a contract security company, and the contract security company had um, Yankee Stadium as a contract.
Okay.
So there were a bunch of security guards in Yankee Stadium, and I was when it got really busy down there, I was one of the suits. They would call the suits, and it was funny because when the suits came in, and they weren't uniformed security guards, that the fans really behaved because for some reason they thought we were FBI or something, or really high up on the security line. So I got a call one day from the regional vice president in my office in New Haven, and he said, "Mario, listen, Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David are going to the Yankee game on Thursday night, and I handpicked you. Can you please go and be their security and sit through the game with them so they're okay?" I'm like, "Sure." So I met Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld there, and he said, "Gee, I'd really like to meet Don Mattingly." Okay. So I go down in the vomitory and everything. I go to the clubhouse. I got Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David out here. Want to meet Don Mattingly. Said, okay. So we go in the clubhouse, and Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David are there. And they get Don Mattingly, and Mattingly comes up straight faced. And they're like, hey, Don, nice to meet you. Jerry Seinfeld, Larry David. He goes, "Hey, guys, it's great to meet you." He goes, "Listen, I got to get ready for the game, okay?" And he said, "Oh," they go, "Oh, great. It was nice to meet you." And we're out of there. So Brett wasn't into a lot of those antics because his mind was in the ring. His focus was his performance, always. Even on short TV, I mean, I was the debut match for the Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
And he wasn't joking around. He said, "Listen, this is what we're going to do. I'll call some stuff in there when you get tagged in." He goes, "Then you're going to get picked up in a makeshift bear hug. Your head's going to be over Neidhart's head. I'm going to hit that rope, and I'm going to hit you with a clothesline." I said, "Okay." He said, "Mario, listen, instead of the norm where when you take a bump, you got to tuck your chin." He goes, "Don't do that." He goes, "Put your chin up, or I'm going to drive your tooth right through your lip when I hit you with that clothesline. Don't be down like this. I'm going to hit you." I go, "Okay." Neidhart picked me up. I went up there, put my head back. He hit me with that clothesline. On the way down, I tucked my chin.
Mm.
You know what I mean? To every detail. So, um,
Is that
you know,
when you refer? Is that when you refer to Brett as snug? You mean that he'll hit you, you'll know he's there, but he won't hurt you.
right. He was
Yeah.
smug. So, and God bless, Joe Bruin, Brett said the same thing about me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to see him on May 6th. And I really appreciate it because, Joe Bruin had a rare picture, rare, that Brett never saw. And what it was him and Neidhart giving me a double elbow.
Okay.
And I'm just about ready to take the bump. Right. And Brett looks at the picture. Joe shows him the picture, wants him to sign it. And he goes, it's Mario Mancini. And Joe goes, yeah, yeah. He goes, do you see him? He goes, yeah. I talk to Mario every now and then. And Brett goes, a lot of those guys, when they came off the ropes, sometimes you didn't know what you were getting. You really didn't. He goes, but Mario, you always knew what you were getting with him. Always. Good guy. So I really appreciate that Brett said that. You know what I mean? Because if you suck, he's going to tell you you suck. And he's got the right to tell anybody that yesterday and today because he's Bret Hart.
So what you're telling me is that Bret Hart could be the next guest on the Mancini show next month, and
I,
we'll.
I wish. I wish. You know what? Bret Hart is wasted. Bret Hart is wasted. He's wasted. He should be involved in the WWE. He should be involved in the development of the WWE. He should be involved in the development of the talent. They should have years ago. They should have put a suit on him, made him a road agent.
Yeah,
They
there was problems there for a long time, though.
they should have really took advantage of his knowledge and his experience. They really should have, and that would have really paid him the respect he deserves.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is something that you brought up to me about WWE trying to legalize betting on wrestling. Is it in certain states in America? Because I know you guys are kind of fucked up over there and you have different laws in different states, but I'll tell you like it is in here. So in here in the UK, we have been able to bet on WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, sometimes Survivor Series, SummerSlam, the big four events. I'd say since 2016, maybe last 7 years. And I can tell you from my experience in looking at it, they don't give you good odds because obviously it's predetermined. But maybe half an hour before the show starts, I could go onto that, and historically, I noticed it happening that the odds get smaller, and I'm looking at it, and I kind of know before the whole event starts who's going to win. So I stopped looking at it. So obviously, there's leaks coming from somewhere, and there's money going on from somewhere on certain guys to win matches, and normally that comes to fruition 100% from what I've seen in the past. What's your opinion on the betting?
Okay, you ready, Sportskeeda? I think
They
I
mightn't
think
talk about gambling. They might talk
I
about
think
gambling there.
I think gambling on professional wrestling is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Okay, so I haven't watched Vegas Vacation probably in 30 years. And I got to watch I watched it last month. Um I hope so, Big Daddy.
Uh,
So I got to watch it not too long ago, last month. First of all, I don't know what happened to Chevy Chase in that movie, whether he had the flu, a cold. I don't know what happened, but he was weird in that movie. Very, very weird. But I had remembered, and it was funny because he had lost all his money, and Randy Quaid is like, "We'll go to another casino," and they walk into this casino, and it's a different kind of a casino, so you can bet on a coin toss You know, whether it's going to be heads or tails. You can bet on, you can play war and bet on that. You know, it wasn't your traditional casino. It was all these stupid things you can gamble on. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty funny. You know, it's pretty silly. It kind of reminded me of that. Now, this is what I think. If they're going to let you gamble on professional wrestling, there's got to be a cap, and it's got to be a really low cap,
There is a cap over here now that you mention it. Yeah.
like $100 or something. There's got to be a cap. You think somebody could become a multimillionaire? This is ridiculous. Okay, so as I put on TikTok that I would be going over this, either making another TikTok or covering it on Cheap Heat or the Hannibal TV. I will cover it on Cheap Heat. Let's talk about the 80s. And let's talk to the wrestling fans in case they don't know. Back in the 80s, there was a production team. And this production team consisted of retired professional wrestlers that worked for The Office. You had Vince McMahon, Howard Finkel, who, don't forget, who coined the phrase WrestleMania after Beatlemania, because Vince didn't know what to call it. You had Vince, Howard Finkel, Pat Patterson, Terry Garvin, Chief J. Strongbow, Gorilla Monsoon, Rene Goulet. You had all these different guys in production coming up with angles, storylines, where they're going to go next in the next year. So, Maurice, you're talking about outcomes that are known a year in advance. Even when superstar Billy Graham took the belt from Bruno because Bruno was tired in 1977, Vince Sr. said, "You're going to be the bridge for a year, 1 year, and then Backlund's taking it from you." So, these things are predetermined far in advance. Far
It's
in
not
advance.
it's not supposedly like that anymore though. It's
Look,
apparently the
look.
writers and things change. I don't know.
No, Maurice, I don't care if they're saying, "Oh, we're hiring the same company that does the Academy Awards." Sealed envelopes, somebody knows.
Oh yeah.
And more than one person knows. Somebody knows. That's the deal. Somebody knows. Now, you bet on the NFL, you bet on Major League Baseball, basketball. Nobody knows. It's supposed to be a shoot. However, I do have a story from 1990 when I called in a bookie for a 1 o'clock football game and I lost. I called in a bookie for the 4 o'clock game and I lost. I owned the bookie 2,200. Back in those days, there was no Sunday night game, right? So now it was Monday Night Football, and I forgot who they were playing, but I know it was the Buffalo Bills. And I owed the bookie 2,200 because I bet 1,000 on each game. And
Yeah.
I called my buddy Chris, and I said, "I'm in a lot of trouble here." He goes, "What did you do?" He goes, "Oh, Mario." So he goes, "I'll call you back in 2 hours." So he calls me back. He goes, "Bet the whole thing on the Buffalo Bills." I said, "Are you sure?" He goes, "It's going to be a blowout." I go, how can you say that? He goes, "Mario, call up Blue Eyes." That was the bookie's name, Blue Eyes. "Put 2,200 on the Buffalo Bills. Do you hear me?" I go, "Okay." So I called up Blue Eyes and I said, "Let the whole thing ride on the Bills." He goes, "Mario, you going to be able to pay me on Wednesday? That's a lot of money. You going to be able to pay me?" He goes, "That's like $4,600. You going to be able to pay me?" I go, "Yeah, I'll be able to." So he goes, "Are you sure?" I go, "Yeah, put the whole thing on the Buffalo Bills." Buffalo won that Monday night game 41-3. 41-3. I'll never forget it. And I never bet on the NFL again, ever. These days, but that's a lie because I did join FanDuel and I'll put $25 on a game. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Still the
Tony
same.
Garea
Totally
too.
agree.
Garea too. Yeah, he was part of the production too. Tony Garea too. So, just to make it interesting, I'll throw $25 on FanDuel on a football game. But I had to wonder, did he just know a really good handicapper? Or did he know something nobody else did? That Buffalo was going to blow out that night.
Mm.
So more than one person knows. The bet on pro. I mean, I'm going to make this statement, and I don't care. This country has to be really hard up to gamble on professional wrestling. I mean, that used to be a joke to gamble on something that's predetermined. Where's everybody's brain going? How the hell are you going to bet on professional wrestling? Are you out of your mind? Is it getting that bad?
They call it a novelty bet over here. We used to be going to the pub and we'd throw a few quid together and we'd just put on a bet, just nothing serious, but something to I don't know, just to look at while we're having a few beers.
You bet on boxing, you bet on other, but you know what I mean? You're going to bet on professional wrestling? There's enough casinos. There's enough things you can bet on. You can bet on anything. God, I mean, with football, you can bet on the coin toss. You can bet on who's going to score first. You can bet on who's going to score a touchdown first, or what guy is going to score a touchdown first. It's like, I mean, there's not enough. There's not enough gambling that you got to now gamble on professional wrestling. You got to be out of your mind.
Is this gonna pass? Is this gonna come in? Do you think? Is this gonna be a thing?
Oh no! I tell you what, if it comes in,
this merger may help in its favor. Yeah.
Listen, I'll open up gambling at Paradise Alley, and wherever the heavy money is, I'll just change all the finishes. Now I'm saying that for a reason, because don't you think that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Oh, we can't have this finish. We'll pay out too much. You know, guys are gonna be doing jobs that originally were supposed to go over because it's money motivated. Their careers will be shot. It's insane.
Big Daddy says all sports are rigged, no doubt. I don't quite agree with that, but I don't know.
Big Daddy's got his own theories.
Yeah.
A lot of them are right, though, by the way. A lot of them are right.
We'll hear about him on the next show, hopefully.
Listen, Big Daddy's like Nostradamus. You know, he said things to me 2 years ago that's come to fruition now. They've come true. And he'd say, Mancini, I told you that 2 years ago, and look now. And I go, you're right. You said it 2 years ago. He's like Nostradamus, Big Daddy. But we will have the Chaos Corner in here. I have one particular question that I'm going to ask him when he comes on the Chaos Corner. And Maurice, all we have to do is sit back and listen, because he's got a lot to say.
You just take the night off kind of thing.
About this particular subject. Yeah.
It's not COVID, is it?
No, it's wrestling related.
Okay, that's grand.
Yeah.
So what detrimental damage could you see happening to the business? And you think this is a terrible thing, but as I was saying to you, you were surprised. Like, this has been over here for years, but not at a high level. It's a kind of a novelty bet.
And what is happening? You know, everybody talked about WrestleMania. Everybody took their pictures at Mania to let everybody know they were there. You know, it was a big, huge deal, man. It was a big, huge deal. I didn't watch 5 minutes of it, and I could. I didn't watch 5 minutes of it. And I got annoyed last night because I was watching YouTube footage. That's one thing that always scared me, because I have big legs. I used to squat a lot, and that's the only thing I got left are my quads. Lord knows everything else looks like the Hamburglar from the waist up, but I still have my quads. If I pop my quads, boy, people go, oh my God, they're big. But there's one thing I always did, is stretch out my quads. I always stretched my quads out, because I used to be scared. Obviously, Shane O'Mac did not stretch out his quads. So I feel bad for the guy.
What do you think of a guy like Snoop Dogg then? Did you see that? He had to come in and finish the match.
Well,
Snoop Dogg,
listen,
I can't believe I'm saying this, but fair fucks to him. Fair play to him.
Well, listen, I got taught a lesson last night
Yeah.
by one of the guys that comes in and helps me out. A longtime wrestler, actually works for the WWE. Um, Vlad, and he was showing that we were going over that clip, and when he blew his quad out, Miz kind of went back and forth to the ropes, kind of lost. And
Yeah.
I said to the students, this can happen anywhere. This happened in WrestleMania in front of 80,000 people. What should he have done? The minute he saw him go down, he should have just started putting the boots to him to
Yeah.
cover. And Vlad went, no. I go, now I get very offended because if you count wrestling school, I got 40 years into the business, but starting next year, when I turned pro in 84, I literally have 40 years in the business. So when somebody corrects me, I don't take that kindly. But in this case, I didn't know the new policy. The new policy was if somebody is hurt in the ring, you can't touch them. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a WWE rule. So he goes, actually, Mario, no, you can't touch anybody who gets injured in the ring. You have to stay away from them. Um,
It
so
happened. It happened in the Hell in a Cell. Edge threw a ladder at our guy Finn Balor, and he had to get
I,
14 stitches.
yeah, I saw the gash.
Mm.
Um, it was very deep too. And he said, you can't touch the person anymore, Mario. That's not right. I said, oh, I didn't know there was a rule. He goes, yeah, there's a rule. You can't ever since Benoit, he said. I said, is that ever since like um Goldberg or something? He said, no, that's been since like Benoit. So when a person gets hurt in the ring, you can't touch them. But what it turns out that the Miz did the right thing. He went up to Snoop and he said, whack me. And Snoop doesn't know how to punch, so he just whacked him. And I think I'm gonna give it. I'm not gonna give a personal opinion. I'm gonna give a professional opinion. Since Snoop is a member of the WWE Hall of Fame, and,
Oh, Taker got him again.
yeah, and that was Roma, and is
Yeah.
associated with um with the WWE, I think what he did was proper, and I thought it was good. I mean, Snoop is the part of the WWE.
Yeah, props to him. In fairness, he handled the situation well. You wouldn't think he's a guy that's the high 24/7, would you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and he was only performing a concert here in Dublin last week, all over
Was
the
he
place.
nice?
Mm.
Nice.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
No.
So WrestleMania, you didn't watch any of it. I was away in London, as you could see, having a great time. So I didn't see anything live, but I did watch it back because we had a lot of Irish representation this year. So
Yeah.
for somewhere so small, we had Sheamus, we had Becky Lynch, we had Finn Balor, we have Kevin Egan now. He's the Monday Night Raw commentator. So we're starting to take over little by little here.
Well, that's good. Bring
Yeah.
the Irish in.
We're going to talk about Paradise Alley because you've got a show coming up before we wrap up today. So, what
Yeah,
is on the agenda?
we got a show coming up April 22nd at 662 Co Avenue. I have a tentative show May 13th at the Jewish Community Center in Woodbridge. Because I specifically wanted to go against that 4'6" guy who owns the Northeast Wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
The little tiny guy with the big ego. But I listen. You'll be proud of me, Maurice. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Go for it. And then I'll put up that question for you.
Oh, let me tell you something. You'll be so proud of me. Starting May 20th and thereafter. Now, I don't want to make you cry.
Okay.
Starting May 20th and thereafter, every first Saturday of the month until October, we are in the parking lot of a microbrewery called Armada in New Haven, Connecticut.
Wow.
So we will be performing there monthly at Armada Brewing Company. Yeah.
Beer and wrestling.
Yes.
That is a recipe for goodness. So
Yeah.
it's what in their parking lot.
Yeah. Yep.
It- And I'm guessing like it's gonna be like it's not gonna look like a backyard kind of thing. Like it's gonna be professional setup in a kind of a bar environment.
Oh,
Yeah.
but listen, we bring the ring with us. It's 18 by 18. It's you know, we bring the ring with us. It's going to be standing. There's going to be no seats. And the only thing I ask the owner is that everybody who's drinking has a paper cup, because there's always one guy that gets really mad and he's really drunk, and I don't need any bottles thrown at my guys. So, yeah, they're very excited for it. We're ready to go. We're ready to do it. Yeah.
So that's gonna. I've been to shows like that before over here in bars and nightclubs, and it's a totally different vibe. Like I'm guessing these won't be family oriented shows. Then these will be adult nighttime shows. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. And what I told the students that it's such a different atmosphere, and
Yeah.
it's a good place for them to debut, because it's not indoors, it's not a focus show. It's like they might not even necessarily be wrestling fans. They're just going there because it's a Saturday night, and they're there and they're going to go out and goof on it. Let's go watch some wrestling. So it's a good venue for my students that are ready to turn pro. Um, because if they screw up, it won't matter. You know what I mean? It's not like it won't matter. Um, it's a good place to hone your skill. So. Um,
NXT Paradise Alley parking lot brawls.
yeah, right. So it's the Armada Brewing Company on River Street, New Haven, Connecticut, and the owner's really pumped up, and everybody's pumped up for us to go there. So, of course, we have a couple of taco fests coming up this year too for the Connecticut Taco Fest, and I'll announce those too. In fact, I got to call Tony Atlas up because I left him a message saying that one of them is going to be in New Hampshire and he lives in Maine, and we had one in Maine, and he came down just to sit there and sign autographs, and he did really well. So I wanted to give him that opportunity again to come down to New Hampshire and sign some stuff. So he called me today, but I couldn't answer the phone at the time, so I got to call Atlas back. That's my boy.
I've got I've got one question I could ask here. I can't really ask the other one, but I'll put this one in. Memories of Bushwhacker Butch.
Those guys were just happy-go-lucky guys in the dressing room. They were very approachable, joked around, just great guys. Because I was a baby face, I wasn't able to work with them. I wish I did. It's kind of like Snuka. I always wished I worked with Snuka, but I was a baby face and I never worked with Snuka. But those guys, they were just happy-go-lucky. They paid their dues. They've been together since the early '70s. As everybody knows, they were the sheep herders, and they came to New York and they came the Bushwhackers, and they were just great guys. They were just I never spent any time with them outside the dressing room,
Yeah,
but they were good. They were good fellows. They were good guys.
fellows. I'll throw in a few quick fires here before we finish up. Tell us about superstar Billy Graham. And Tony Atlas is a great dude. Met him twice. That's from None of Your Business. He seems to pop up on your shows. Not sure who None of Your Business is, but he's here. Fair play to you, man.
Both those guys are great guys. Both of them. I know Tony a lot better than superstar Billy Graham, but Billy Graham was always gracious with me. Always would answer my questions. I talked to him, sit next to him. But Atlas is another story. Atlas is a very close friend of mine. He's a brother of mine. We're very close and very good friends. Um, so close that when the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame comes, Bruin always makes sure his table's right next to mine. That's how close we are. So, yeah, Atlas is very dear to me.
Loves shoes, that guy, doesn't he?
Loafers.
Loafers.
Yeah, and you can't
Oh,
get
that's a particular type, is it?
Yeah, you can't get confused. He gets upset because if somebody goes, Tony, look at her feet, he'll go, no, man, not
Yeah.
the feet, it's the shoes. So,
Yeah, yeah, because I had only had Snitsky on the podcast, and he was on about sucking Mae Young's toes at WrestleMania, and he said, "I'm a
yeah,
professional foot connoisseur." That's what he said
yeah,
to me.
yeah, Tony. But you know what? Tony's a great guy. He's a smart guy. He's got a lot of wisdom, wisdom in Tony Ellis.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're going to wrap it up then for today, and we'll plan something in for the end of this month anyway. If we can get Big Daddy back in, and if we can get some wrestlers, man, the amount of wrestlers that haven't been showing up lately. I'll mention no names, but it's
Well,
very hard. It's very hard to get wrestlers these days.
you
But then
listen.
again, I suppose it's the time
I
of the year as well.
I didn't know show you, but
Never.
I like to get Big Daddy on here. You know, I want to get Big Daddy on here because he's a lot better than me. When it comes to like, he's an incredible wrestling historian. Um, and his knowledge of the business is vast.
Yeah.
I definitely want to have a chaos corner here to get his opinion on anything we talk about, because his opinion matters.
Yeah.
Matters.
And somewhere down the line, I can say it on this because they've both agreed to do it. But your good friend Paul Roma and Dirty Dutch Mantel are going to have a Ric Flair special on this show as well soon. So that's going to be interesting as well.
Oh boy, let me tell you something. I met Dutch Mantel for the first time last summer, and I called him Mr. Mantel, and he said Dutch, and I went no, Mr. Mantel, and I only did that to two other people, Terry Funk and Harley Rays. I Mr. Funk and Mr. Rays, and I called him Mr. Mantel. Dutch Mantel, again, he's another part of wrestling royalty. Deserves the utmost respect in this business. He's a gentleman. He's a kind man. I wish I had the career Dutch Mantel had. He's a great instructor by far, and he deserves all the respect in this business. I mean, Dutch Mantel is an incredible person in this business, and anybody that says otherwise doesn't know their ass from their elbow, because he's wrestling royalty, man. He's a huge part of this business, and it's an honor to know him. It's a privilege for me. It's a privilege to say hello to Dutch Mantel. I mean, who the hell am I? You know what I mean? I'm nobody compared to him. You know what I mean? So it was a privilege to meet him and to talk with him, and I can't wait to see him again. I really can't. And you know, whatever his opinion on Ric Flair is probably bad, probably right. And you know, we all know Roma. So you know, when it comes to Paul Roma, you could say anything. You know, Paul Roma's answer is, you know, put your money where your mouth is and meet me.
Yeah.
That'll
Bill,
always
Bill,
that'll always be his answer. Okay, man, you feel that way? Let's close the door. Let's have a meeting. But
Bill,
you get pissed off enough, he'll go, and let's see who walks out. You know what I mean? You gotta be careful with Roma. You gotta be careful with Roma. Yeah.
Bill is wondering, are the Paradise Alley outdoor shows paydays in beer? He says it's better than a hot dog and a handshake.
Yeah, no. They're not. The paydays aren't in beer.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just hoping it goes really smooth. So
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on that one. And look, man, it was a pleasure to talk to you again today. And we're going to catch up probably in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, with Big Daddy.
well, as always, Maurice, you tell me when you need me, and I'll be here.
Never lets me down.
No, try not to.
Good night, sir.
All right, sir.